My brother sleeps with my girlfriend to humiliate me because I am doing good. 6 months later he came asking for money and I told him no. I never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am. It's been a wild ride, and I need to get this off my chest. Buckle up, because this is going to be a long one. For context, I'm 28, and my brother, let's call him Jack, is 26. We grew up in a small town in the Midwest, raised by our single mom after our dad passed away when we were kids. Money was always tight, and we learned to scrape by with what little we had. Growing up, Jack and I were close. We shared a room, played video games together, and stood up for each other at school. I remember countless nights staying up late, whispering about our dreams and plans for the future. We promised each other we'd always have each other's backs, no matter what. But as we got older, things started to change. Jack began hanging out with a rougher crowd, skipping classes, and getting into trouble. I vividly recall the night I had to bail him out of jail for the first time. He was 17, caught shoplifting beer from the local convenience store. The look of shame on our mom's face when we got home is something I'll never forget. I, on the other hand, focused on my studies and worked part-time jobs to save for college. It wasn't easy. I'd often come home exhausted from my shift at the local diner, only to stay up late finishing homework. But I was determined to make something of myself, to make our mom proud. By the time I graduated high school, I had earned a scholarship to a decent state university. Jack barely finished school and decided to stay in our hometown, working odd jobs and partying. Our paths diverged, but I still cared about him and tried to stay in touch. College was tough. There were times I thought about giving up, especially when I'd get calls from home about Jack's latest escapade or mom's financial struggles. But I persevered, working through summers and taking extra classes to graduate early. Fast forward to last year. I had just landed a great job at a tech startup in the city, making more money than I ever thought possible. It wasn't easy. I had to learn coding languages on the fly and pull numerous all-nighters to meet deadlines. But it paid off. I was finally able to move out of my cramped apartment and into a nice place. Life was looking up, and I was excited about the future. That's when I met Sarah. She was smart, beautiful, and shared my passion for hiking and photography. We met at a local photography club meeting, and I was instantly smitten. She had this infectious laugh and a way of seeing the world that just drew me in. We hit it off immediately, and within a few months, we were officially dating. For the first time in my life, everything seemed to be falling into place. I was eager to share my happiness with Jack, so I invited him to visit me in the city. When he arrived, I was shocked by his appearance. He looked older than his years, with dark circles under his eyes and a gauntness to his face that spoke of hard living. But when I told him about my job and showed him around my new place, he seemed genuinely happy for me. I introduced him to Sarah, and they seemed to get along well. I thought it was great that my brother and girlfriend were hitting it off. Little did I know what was really going on. One weekend, about 4 months into my relationship with Sarah, I had to go on a business trip. It was a big opportunity, a chance to present our latest project to potential investors. I was nervous but excited. I asked Jack if he wanted to stay at my place while I was gone, thinking it would be a nice chance for him to enjoy the city. He agreed, and I left feeling good about giving my brother a mini vacation. The trip went well, and I was on cloud 9 as I flew back home. I couldn't wait to share the good news with Sarah and Jack. I returned home late Sunday night, exhausted from the trip but looking forward to seeing them the next day. When I walked into my apartment, something felt off. There were empty beer bottles on the coffee table, and the place smelled like stale cigarettes. Neither Sarah nor I smoke. I noticed Sarah's jacket draped over a chair. She must have come over to keep Jack company, I thought. As I made my way to the bedroom, I heard muffled voices and laughter. My heart started racing as I approached the door. Part of me knew what I was about to see, but I couldn't stop myself from pushing the door open. And there they were, Jack and Sarah, tangled up in my sheets, clearly postcoital. The room reeked of sex and alcohol. Sarah's eyes widened in shock when she saw me, but Jack just smirked. The next few minutes were a blur. There was shouting, crying, and accusations flying everywhere. Sarah tried to explain, saying it was a mistake and that she was drunk. She clung to my arm, mascara running down her face as she begged for forgiveness. Jack just sat there with that smug look on his face, not even attempting to apologize. I remember Sarah saying something about how it had only happened once, how she loved me and it didn't mean anything. But then Jack chimed in, his words slurring slightly, once? Baby, we've been at it all weekend. Tell him about Friday night in the shower. I saw red. I lunged at Jack, my fist connecting with his jaw before I even realized what I was doing. We scuffled on the bed, Sarah screaming at us to stop. It ended with both of us nursing bloody noses and split lips. I kicked them both out that night. Sarah kept calling and texting, begging for forgiveness, but I blocked her number. Jack, on the other hand, disappeared without a word. The next few weeks were hell. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the pain and betrayal. My colleagues noticed something was off, but I brushed off their concerns. I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I felt so stupid, so betrayed. I couldn't understand why they would do this to me. Sarah, I could almost understand. Relationships can be complicated, and people make mistakes. But Jack? My own brother? It didn't make sense. It wasn't until about a month later that I got some answers. I ran into an old friend from our hometown who had recently seen Jack. According to him, Jack had been bragging about putting his successful brother in his place and showing him that he can't have it all. I was stunned. My own brother had deliberately set out to hurt me because he was jealous of my success. It was a level of cruelty I couldn't comprehend. All those childhood memories, the promises we'd made to always be there for each other, it all felt like a lie. Months passed, and I slowly started to heal. I focused on my work, picking up new hobbies, and even started dating again, much more cautiously this time. I took up boxing, finding that the physical exertion helped clear my mind. I hadn't heard from Jack since that night, and honestly, I was okay with that. Then, about 6 months after the incident, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Jack. He sounded different, desperate and panicked. He started rambling about how he was in trouble, how he owed some dangerous people money, and how he needed my help. Apparently, he had gotten involved with some loan sharks, and now they were threatening him. Jack begged me for $10,000, promising he'd pay me back as soon as he could. He said he had no one else to turn to, that I was his last hope. He brought up our childhood, how we used to have each other's backs no matter what. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. Despite everything, he was still my brother. I thought about all the times he'd stood up for me when we were kids, how he'd taken the blame when I accidentally broke Mom's favorite vase. But then I remembered the look on his face that night, the smug satisfaction as he destroyed my relationship and my trust. No, I said firmly. Jack's tone immediately changed. He started yelling, calling me selfish and accusing me of abandoning family. He brought up our dad, saying he would be ashamed of me for turning my back on family. I let him rant for a while before I finally spoke again. You're right, Jack. We did have each other's backs. But that changed the moment you decided to hurt me deliberately. You didn't just make a mistake, you set out to humiliate me because you were jealous. You betrayed me in the worst possible way, and now you have the audacity to ask me for money? No. You made your choice, now live with the consequences. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time since that awful night, I felt like I had taken back some control. Over the next few days, Jack continued to call and text from different numbers. Sometimes he was pleading, other times angry and threatening. I blocked each number as it came. It was draining, but I stood firm in my decision. A week later, I got a call from our mom. Jack had told her a twisted version of events, painting himself as the victim and me as the uncaring brother who refused to help family in need. I calmly explained the whole story to her, including the part about Jack's deliberate attempt to hurt me. She was quiet for a long time before finally sighing and saying, "I'm so sorry, honey. I had no idea." We talked for hours that night, delving into issues we'd avoided for years. Mom admitted she'd always struggled with Jack's behavior, feeling like she'd failed him somehow. I reassured her that Jack's choices were his own, not a reflection of her parenting. It was a difficult conversation, but I felt like it brought us closer. It's been a month since then. I haven't heard from Jack, and I don't know what happened with his debt situation. Part of me worries about him, but a bigger part knows that I can't set myself on fire to keep him warm. As for me, I'm doing better. My job is going well, I even got a promotion last week. I've started seeing someone new. It's early days, but she's kind and respectful, and we're taking things slow. I'm cautious, but I'm learning to trust again. I've learned a lot from this experience. About trust, about family, and about standing up for myself. It's not always easy, but I know I made the right choice in refusing to help Jack. Some might call it cold or unforgiving, but I see it as an act of self-respect. To those who might find themselves in a similar situation, remember this: you don't owe anyone your peace of mind, not even family. It's okay to set boundaries and protect yourself from those who would hurt you, no matter who they are. As for Jack, I hope he gets the help he needs and turns his life around. But that's not my responsibility anymore. I have my own life to live, and for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about what the future holds. Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your supportive comments and messages. To address a few common questions. 1. Yes, I've considered therapy and am actually in the process of finding a therapist. This experience has brought up a lot of childhood issues that I think I need to work through. 2. For those asking about legal action against Jack or Sarah, I've decided not to pursue that route. The emotional cost of dragging this out in court just isn't worth it to me. I'd rather focus on moving forward. 3. Some have suggested that I might be partially responsible for Jack's behavior because I was showing off my success. I want to be clear, I never rubbed my achievements in his face. I was simply excited to share my life with my brother. His reaction was his choice, not my fault. 4. To the person who asked if I'd consider reconciling with Jack if he genuinely apologized and got help, honestly, I don't know. That bridge seems pretty thoroughly burned right now. Maybe someday, but it would take a lot of time and proof of real change. 5. For those worried about my mom, she's okay. She's disappointed in Jack but is trying to maintain a relationship with both of us. I've made it clear that I don't expect her to choose sides. Thank you again for all your support. It means more than you know. Edit 2. It's been about a week since my original post, and there have been some developments. I debated whether to update or not, but given how supportive everyone has been, I felt I owed you all some closure. 3 days ago, I got a call from a hospital in our hometown. Jack had been admitted after being badly beaten. Apparently, he couldn't pay his debts, and the loan sharks made good on their threats. Despite everything, I found myself driving the 3 hours back home. When I got to the hospital, I was shocked by Jack's appearance. He was bruised all over, with a broken arm and several cracked ribs. His face was so swollen I could barely recognize him. When he saw me, he broke down crying. Through his tears, he apologized for everything, for sleeping with Sarah, for trying to humiliate me, for asking for money. He said he'd hit rock bottom and realized how badly he'd screwed up. We talked for hours. Jack admitted that he'd been struggling with depression and drug addiction for years, using partying and hookups to mask his pain. He said seeing my success had made him feel like a failure, and in his warped state of mind, he thought bringing me down would make him feel better. Of course, it only made things worse. I listened to everything he had to say. I won't lie, part of me felt vindicated hearing him admit how wrong he was. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad for the brother I used to know, sad for the relationship we lost, sad for the pain we've both been through. In the end, I told Jack that while I appreciated his apology, I wasn't ready to forgive him yet. Trust, once broken, takes a long time to rebuild. But I also told him that I was willing to help him get into rehab if he was serious about turning his life around. Jack agreed to go to rehab. I'm paying for it, which is a financial strain, but I feel it's the right thing to do. Not for Jack, but for me, so I can look at myself in the mirror and know I didn't give up on my brother when he truly needed help. I don't know what the future holds for Jack and me. I'm not naive enough to think that rehab will magically fix everything between us. The road ahead is long and uncertain. But for the first time in a long time, there's a glimmer of hope. To everyone who shared their own stories of family betrayal and recovery, thank you. Your experiences have helped me navigate this difficult situation. And to those who are still struggling with similar issues, stay strong. Sometimes the hardest choices are the ones that help us grow the most. I'll post another update if anything significant happens. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on my own healing while cautiously hoping for Jack's recovery. Thank you all again for your support through this crazy journey.